Hi, everyone, and I welcome you all to today's exclusive crosstalk session on engineering next gen financial platforms with AI automation and scalable design. I'm your host, Khushi Mudgal, and I'm absolutely delighted to have you all with us today. To help us unpack this exciting space, it is my honor to have two incredible guests with me. Joining me today are Mr. Sathish Mohan, Vice President, Finxact Global Services at Fiserv, and Ms. Manisha Banthia, VP and Expert Engineer, Data and Analytics at Fiserv. It's such a pleasure having you both here with me today.
Thank you, Kushi. Thanks for having us.
You.
Before we move ahead, let me take a moment to introduce them. Satish leads the Finxact India Center in Bangalore, driving the global expansion of their banking platform. And with nearly 3 decades of experience building and launching enterprise scale financial systems, he has worked across fintech startups and tier one banks worldwide. His expertise spans digital transformation, real time core banking, open banking ecosystems, retail payments, data driven decisioning, and hyper personalization. He has also applied for a patent in human experience design and actively advises in the open banking and platform economy space. While Manisha is a pioneering AI/ML architect with 30 years of experience designing intelligent financial systems that transform how institutions understand risk, customers, and growth opportunities. Her work spans end to end analytics from advanced risk models to dynamic pricing and large scale decision engines across banking, insurance, and capital markets. She uniquely blends deep technical expertise with strong business acumen, helping developers turn complex AI concepts into production ready financial products with real impact. So, now, setting the context for the topic, today's conversation will explore how modern financial platforms are being re engineered for intelligence, resilience, and massive scale. And our guests will share their expert insights into how AI driven automation is actually reshaping core financial workflows, what scalable architecture really means in today's fintech landscape, and how developers can design platforms that are secure, adaptive, and future ready. We'll also explore some practical approaches to designing secure, high performance systems that strengthen compliance, reduce operational risk, and maintain user trust. Finally, the conversation will bring forward how intelligent platform design accelerates innovation, enabling the teams to deliver smarter products and adapt faster to market needs and future proof financial operations in an AI driven world. And now, moving forward with the conversation, firstly, I would like to begin with setting the context on the evolution of intelligent financial platforms. For this, Manisha, I would like to ask you that as you witnessed AI's evolution in financial services from predictive analytics to autonomous systems, how do you see this journey reshaping the next wave of intelligent financial products for us?
Thank you, Kushi. Yes, so like you said, both Satish and I 30 years, right, in this space. And we've seen it evolve. It's been such a drastic change. But at the same time, when I was building predictive models way back, they were still very powerful, right? Especially in the area of risk models. But the challenge was always a limited amount of data. And we never had enough behavioral data. We did not have, we had fragmented data sets, right? We could not, rely on the data quality, and that has completely changed now. We are able we are able to store large amounts of data very easily now. The data ecosystems have matured, and most importantly, we now have access to third party data, which we never used to, right? It was never so easily available to look at behavior data from a third party perspective, be it risk or marketing, right? So that's what happened, right? Over the last few decades, we now have access to volumes of data. And now we are entering a phase where we have Gen AI and we have agentic architectures, right? And now, very excited, of course, right, to start utilizing all of this to build the next gen platforms. So what we see is, Gen AI is already, for example, for us detecting anomalies in the data, across massive data streams, and it is doing so in real time. It is recognizing patterns, It is very dynamic, right? It is able to find a change which happened 5 days back, or a particular variable that changed 5 years back, right? All of that happening at the same time. So even when the signals are fast changing, it is able to catch that anomaly. And most importantly, from a business perspective, when a business looks at the outputs, it is able to even translate complex insights into natural language. So that's a vast change that has come about. And with the with agentic, uh, we are basically able to you know evaluate scenarios. We are able to score risks. We are able to optimize our processes better, right? So we are able to take decisions instantly with agentic AI. So combination of both is completely changing the way we are building our products. At Fiserv, while everybody was pursuing AI, and we were also, like many other GCCs, we were also uh, kind of bringing in automation. We were investing in machine learning. We were building conversational bots. But to build the next gen, right, what we are doing is the company's focused completely on embedding AI inside our products. So we are making our products more intelligent. That's what we are seeing, the evolution, right? With real time fraud and risk scoring, we have transaction authorization, all of that happening at real time, with dynamic models using Gen AI, and a lot of very interesting things like a conversational interface for a banker, for a person using their banking platform, where the customers can actually, especially the Gen Zs, right, can talk to the bank, and it can interact with their online banking systems through natural language, right, rather than looking at a series of menus on the left hand side, and clicking and traversing through your online banking platform. So a lot of changes coming in, and very excited, right, to see how we bring it all together into Fiserv platforms.
Definitely, Manisha. And you're very, beautifully put ahead the context as well, and how actually we are moving ahead with this landscape in mind, and also with the automation and scalable design actually reshaping the financial platforms now. And now, Satish, for you, I wanted to let you mention that as you see that you've built and also scaled multiple banking platforms globally. So, how do you think that this shift from static systems to intelligent and adaptive platforms can actually change the developer workflow, in your opinion?
Yeah, thanks, Kushi. Like Manisha said, we spend a lot of time, fortunately, building products in our career, and products to platform shift has been something that's been happening though for many years. But there are the 8 out of the top 10 companies, most valued companies in the world, are platform based organization. The whole aspect of fundamentally, if you have to understand what's the difference between a product and a platform, products are very linear, right? So you build something, it goes to a specific customer, and it's kind of a closed ecosystem, right? So you use and then you pay to the same supplier. So it's a kind of a very linear model. Whereas in the moment you go into platform, the number of stakeholders increases, right? So the whole idea is like, how do you activate the network effect? And which means it's not just the supplier, not just the customer. It not You start adding partners into the ecosystem, then you start seeing what are the value chain and who all can play a part, and how the transactions can flow between that, right? So these platform companies have started building, of course, and started seeing the value of it. Now every company is going towards the direction, because even the regulations and other aspects are creating that. We'll talk about that subsequently in a conversation. But that's opened up. Now that brings a different complexity. The moment you go into the open, where the network effect is going to create a flywheel effect, in which context then are you then prepared to build a platform or build a technology which is going to help enable this orchestration in a much more smoother way, right? So there is going to be multi-sided network, and the open ecosystem, each one is going to have a different regulation. So from a developer standpoint, this becomes far more complex in terms of understanding. But as long as they are able to kind of define, what is that I'm solving for this? How open is my platform? How can I structure, the data payload that's going to move between these conversation, and essentially draw the journey which has multiple jumps at different points and come back to it, right? So the whole shift towards platform is something that's been happening, but there are a lot of opportunity in this space, interestingly, right? So even the mature platform companies are seeing the level of demands from the digital first customers who don't differentiate any of your enterprise application to what they use today. So if they are using a very popular e-commerce tool today, and then they log into another app which could be an enterprise app or a banking app, they expect a similar level of experience. So the benchmarks are set not by people within the industry that you operate, or set by leaders in the platform world. So that kind of puts a pressure on every other industry to kind of catch up to it, because your customers have an unset demand of that. So from a developer standpoint, then how do you then understand what that expectation would be for different personas and users who are going to use your platform, and how are they going to be? And again, you need to understand, if it's like a payable, receivable, or if it's a payment platform, you could have different segments of users coming in, and uh, how simple and easy can you make it, how intuitive can you make it, so that they are able to kind of seamlessly operate with it, right? So the challenge for developers in these contexts, where the the openness of such ecosystem is bringing more dynamic, and how do you design for resilience when there are multiple players who are coming in to orchestrate and deliver a outcome for end consumer. So interesting time, great opportunity. There is way too products, a company which is still not gone there into a platform mode, way to corporates and companies which are operating their business are still transitioning to platform. So a great time for everybody in the tech industry who are going to play a part in this space.
Yes, Satish, definitely. This is really very interesting for all of us to actually, take a look at, and also, revisit everything that we are planning with this landscape moving forward. And that actually briefs us about the evolution of intelligent financial platforms moving ahead. And now we'd like to transition into the next segment about innovation versus accountability in BFSI. So to set this ahead, Manisha, as you see that in regulated sectors like BFSI, how do you think developers can balance innovation with accountability when they're building adaptive and AI-driven systems at the same time?
Yeah, continuing on my previous point, we have access to so much data, Kushi, now that, you're almost ready to use the data and take as many, build as many actionable insights you can. So you have innovation, you have data, you have technology, and you can use it in so many ways. And there are new concepts like data sharing happening right now, right? A lot of organizations have started selling their data, sharing their data, buying data from other organizations. Uh, so what we need to keep in mind, right, while we innovate, while we use a lot of this data, is of course accountability. For us, within Fiserv, thankfully, there are many teams that exist today in terms of for example, a very different thing in terms of data usage committee, right, which does not say which tools you use or which technology you use or what data you use, but what are you going to use the data for, right? So that's what we have to keep in mind. One is the data sensitivity. What are you allowed to use and what are you not allowed to use from a contractual perspective, right? So for example, in Fiserv, we work with multiple banks, we work with multiple merchants, we have access to your payment or card data, right? So, but what is it that we can use? So, for example, we can use it maybe to do better fraud detection, we can use it to do better risk scoring, we can use the data to do identity verification. So from a risk perspective, you can start using a lot of this data, but if you were going to use the same data for marketing or personalization, that's not okay. So in which case the permissions come in, and what data can you combine, right, to to start generating these insights? Can you combine banking and cards data? Can you combine cards and payments data, right? So what if we have access? Do we really have the liberty to start joining these data sets? So keeping in mind the personalization of it, as to how personal are you getting with that data. So it goes even beyond the regular PII or PCI checks that we do, right? Which is now table stakes, right? We have a lot of the agentic AI, a lot of the Gen AI already taking care of those checks for us. But you should also keep in mind where you can aggregate data. For example, you can say people who shop at whatever Decathlon also spend time on a coffee store next door. So you could aggregate data and you're still not making it very personalized. And in some cases you have to go granular, right? So you have to go to each name address level and say, okay, this card is associated with a name or address which does not seem right to me. So you could go granular, you could go aggregate. So keep in mind these kind of things. Start using, another thing that people have started doing is using synthetic data sets. So it's not actual data, it is synthesized data. It is like near close to real data, right? So you can start using synthetic data. You need to be careful about you know anonymizing your data, encrypting your data. In some cases we also use a lot of surrogate data. We use fuzzy logic to derive inputs, insights from surrogate data, and not, for example, look at a social security number, etc., right? So there's other surrogate data points that you could also use and not use PII data. uh, Eventually it is also about a lot of documentation, because we need to be ready with you need to be audit ready. A lot of risk audits happen. What data you've used and how you've computed a particular score, a risk score, etc., is always something that needs to be very transparent because a decision is made based on that scoring that you've done. So you need to bring in strong documentation as to why you used a particular algorithm. And your models, if you're building AI models, they should be explainable. And largely I think every organization, like I said, has AI governance frameworks in place. They have AI GRC kind of teams in place. So work with those teams, I think. And a lot of organizations today have their model risk management teams. For example, in Fiserv, right, we continuously monitor our fraud scoring models, right, to make sure we are fair, and we are monitoring them constantly. So a lot of those things are also required. One is to decide what data you can use and what you cannot, and two, if you are making a decision based on that data, then are you ensuring that your models and your how should I say, your strategies, right, are continuously tested, right, for explainability, etc. So that's what I think one should keep in mind, and be very careful, right, with a lot of innovation and technology in hand comes a lot of responsibility as well.
Right, Manisha, you rightly mentioned with so many kinds and types of data existing in this automation landscape, it is very important to know the right applications that can actually be, taken up, and actually we can go about pursuing the tasks and applications that actually matter to us now. So I'm glad that you've let us know the insights on the same. And with this concept moving forward, Satish, now I would like to ask you that as you see that open banking and composable architectures mature, then what do you think is that role that does smarter automation play in enabling the speed, scalability, along with the resilience?
Yeah, I think one of the aspects of the open banking and the regulation which has come in, particularly in the financial service and different other industries, that today I think most part of the world, every country has their open banking, act being published by the central bank. And from a composer to kind of be able to respond to that, which means, from my earlier point in platform, be able to respond to different stakeholder, then you need to have uh, platforms to having composable components become easy to kind of tailor to different user journey needs, which kind of drawn to earlier enterprise application where kind of pretty much end to end they will do servicing from a channel to the ledger in the financial service context. But then they've been broken down into system of engagement, system of enablement, system of record, which is where the ledger is, and then the system of insights, right? So those things started abstracting, and within system of engagements, they started breaking them down into, onboarding, authorization, security. There are various aspects that comes, and so your ability to then start building uh, microservice component for specific epics or stories which kind of handle the larger journey becomes flexible. And this gives a lot of flexibility from a customer standpoint, because customer then has a choice to use the best of breed option in a composable architecture. They don't have to go with one solution player or another. So that brings a huge demand from the market, because they're playing with the best of breed, because they want to give the best of service to the end consumer. When that comes into play, automation becomes extremely crucial in whatever you're building, right? So when you're building components, then how can you leverage various smarter automation? Because this kind of helps these platform solutions that we're talking to kind of operate with speed, reliability, and what this whole ecosystem is demanding, right? So from a speed standpoint, I need faster onboarding, and this onboarding could be different stakeholder. It could be a customer, it could be a partner, it could be a simple API onboarding itself, because I want to validate what that API call is and whether it's coming from the right source. So basically the API discovery, and the whole aspect of seamless integration, which kind of has a fail proof system. So you need to automate it to the manner that that journey, if it fails, what is the next alternate route it needs to take to kind of service that requirement. And we are talking very less milliseconds kind of time frame for these response to come through, because when you do a transaction, when you swipe a card, the speed at which the multiple things happens, and these are different hops can happen between those, are way too many complex. But then the whole hops have to be much faster. The automation makes a big difference there. In terms of scalability, thanks to cloud and the newer technology, you need to be able to bring elasticity to support unpredictable transaction spikes without any human or manual intervention. So earlier, you need to kind of bring those capacity manually. You prepare for a Black Friday sale or and then start as allocating huge amount of infrastructure resource. Now with cloud, if you've designed your application, so you start automating, checking those performance in the smaller unit, and then when multiple composable components come together, you still have any latency when you start integrating these components? Are performance, is there a lag? So all these can get automated and can be very dynamically handled. And these are again things that as a developer one should look at. And resiliency is very critical. Resilience is very critical from particularly in a financial situation that we deal with. We need to have circuit breakers, we need to have automated failovers, we need to have periodic health checks to see if things are happening in the right manner. Are there any signals or warnings that we need to look out for? And hence it requires continuous monitoring. And like Manisha called out earlier, this quantum of data that we're dealing with is humongous. And so how do you kind of look at what's a good transaction, what's a bad transaction, where there is a potential attack that is coming your way? So, and in spite of that, you make sure, how do you ensure the transactions cleared from, because you don't, there is a potential opportunity risk if that transaction doesn't go through for multiple stakeholders involved. So automation plays a significant part, be it in speed, scalability, and resilience. And there is significant amount of work that we do within Fiserv, and in the scale of work that we operate on these areas, which is very exciting.
Right, Satish, and definitely with the amount of scalability that can exist along with the resilience that we are targeting in the next evolving landscape, it definitely sets us apart with all the insights that you've shared. And of course, it brings us a step closer to envisioning all of it at the same time. So, all right, now we'll transition into the next segment, which is Gen AI automation and how intelligent platforms are actually helping us intersecting with the complementary layers. And to set this ahead, Manisha, I would like to ask you that how do you see Gen AI and automation actually intersecting, and are they complementary layers, or does one evolve into the other?
It's a very interesting question. Uh, Kushi, we are of course seeing everything getting interconnected. Like we used to have like a separate automation team and a separate AI team. Um, Even within Pfizer, we see these lines are not so solid anymore, right? So there is a lot of interconnectedness, and what I have seen from my experience in the last few years is that a lot of it depends on the use case. So it could be complementary in a certain use case. In a certain use case, it's actually evolving. And kind of becoming one single platform, like Satish mentioned, right? That the platform concept is very different from the product concept. So in some products we are seeing it being complementary. In a platform scenario, we are seeing it completely evolve into each other, right? To your question. So what I've seen is a lot of decisions that were rule engine based, right? Like they were rule based, whether a transaction will go through or not, whether I will authorize this transaction or not, whether I will call this transaction fraudulent or not, was all, and still now is very rule based. What we have started seeing is that you can feed intelligence into these rule based platforms, and then when you enable an agentic workflow on top of that, right, then it is able to take an autonomous decision, whereas earlier it was a very static kind of decision. So that's what's happening. We are seeing it complement each other in some cases. In certain platforms that we work on, we are seeing that they are already, like, an automation platform already comes with an agentic AI, so it's already evolved into an agentic kind of decision making. A lot of our AI ML platforms that we use are also getting in Gen AI and agentic AI and automation through agentic AI now, right? So that evolution is happening in terms of the platform. Um,
Manisha,
what
if I
we're
can just
seeing,
add there, right? So you
yeah,
talked about rule-based engine. I think that a lot of things are moving towards algorithm,
yeah,
right? So because the number of parameters that are required in a rule and what today the market demands, I think we have to move towards algorithm, right? So that transition which you talked about brings a great opportunity, and a lot of algorithms you and your team have also built, which kind of feed into the next level of automation layer itself, right? So yeah, that's interesting. So I just thought I'll add that.
yeah, no, absolutely. We're seeing it in so many scenarios, Satish. It was earlier, like I said, more a decision that needs to be taken now in terms of fraudulent or not, authorize this transaction or not. But even offers, personalized offers, are now based on so many other behavioral factors, and you cannot just keep it to those static five fields anymore, right? So that's what's happening, and I think the way we are at least seeing it internally is that we'll see Gen AI, so to your question, Khushi, on complementary versus evolving, we see the Gen AI really becoming more decision making, right? Because we'll have access to data, we'll be able to detect outliers in the data faster, we'll be able to read the data faster. So the decision making will be completely changing with Gen AI, and the action, right, the action that you take on top of that will be kind of complemented with an agentic AI framework. So some of it already in action within Pfizer, but that's where we are seeing right now complementary, but some use cases or some platforms taking it completely evolving right to the next stage. So that's how we are seeing these two things work together.
Right, Manisha. And Satish, in your opinion, just like Manisha said, that with these complementary layers, having a top-notch edge over evolving into one another, what do you have to say about that?
um, Evolving into each other, the automation and on the same topic. Yeah, I think as I said, automation is like we had the RPA and other stuff coming much earlier in the automation cycle. So there is a lot of initial work that has gone into uh, process automation, and then IPA came up. So there is a lot of, again, a lot of work, built asset that we have built over a period of time. And with Gen AI, the level to which you could kind of take these automations are way higher, the power that you get in. But then at the same time, you don't want to, kind of leave those assets that you've built upon. So the transition, they continue to coexist in certain areas, and certain areas you completely shift them out. Um, but it's been a journey, right? So you're not, while the current Gen AI is giving you a kind of a huge leapfrog in terms of what you can possibly achieve from what you have done in the past, but then the foundational elements of what you have built in terms of automating and those sections of things that you're automating, there's going to be a huge amount of interplay till you start maturing. And that transition happens with anything new that comes up. But I think the scale at which some of it we are seeing right now has been tremendous.
And I think the high risk decisions, right, where there are high risk nature, there will be that human element coming in always, or staying there for some time, right, till we completely transition to an autonomous state. So that's how
Rightly
it is.
mentioned, Manisha and Satish, and definitely with the Gen AI automation and platform intelligence scaling up so rapidly and evolving so much in this fast evolving landscape. Definitely, there's so many things that need to be actually addressed, but at the same time, with the right amount of information and insights that we are glad to know from both of you. And now, Satish, we'd like to also know from you that stable coins and programmable money are now becoming mainstream. So, how will do you think that platform design need to adapt to integrate these securely and efficiently?
Absolutely. I think the biggest shift with stablecoin is that it gives more security, because stablecoins are digital token designed to have consistent value, and they are typically pegged to another asset like a fiat currency or a commodity. Hence, the reliable reliability of that not going fluctuating dramatically, what we've seen in other kinds of digital currency will not happen here. So that gives more comfort, and the idea is to make this more mainstream. And some of the regulations that we are seeing, like the Genius Act in US and other things, are helping this for the industry to start adopting them in the mainstream. Like there are popular, kind of stable coins that are there in the market today, like USDC, USDT, and PYUSD, which and however, that it gives options for your own US, kind of stable coins to be released. And Fiserv, we launched our own FIUSD a few months back in this earlier part of this year, because we are kind of very strategically positioned between two of a large segments that we deal with, which is the merchant and the financial institution, and we are in the intersections of anything that flows between these two. And stablecoin is potentially if it moves in the right direction so far in the way it's moving, it gives us great opportunity, because some of the good benefits about stablecoins is that it's kind of it's got an instant transfer and settlement. It's 24/7. There's no time window for a payment to go through, which gives huge amount of flexibility where this payment needs to go. It's kind of highly fungible, and it's blockchain native, so you could go track and trace the payments that are going through. And it's kind of very freely traded across chains. um, Today major currencies are available. USD and euro are there, and the important thing is the transfers are extremely low per transactions, right? They go into very fractional cost compared to any of the other transfers that we do today, right? So there is huge advantage for it. And I think we have, like I said, we play in different both segments of the industry that we focus on. And from a consumer or business standpoint, kind of transferring a USD, which is the fiat currency that we deal with, into on ramp through an ACH or something, and minting a stable coin, in which in our case it could be an FISD back based on USDT or USDC or PYUSD, and having that on chain as a blockchain asset makes 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 us kind of provision this for those transactions to happen, of course. And hence, I'm saying we've been in this industry of financial industry for way too long, for so many years. So we understand the kind of security protocol that we need to follow, the kind of ensuring these safety of these transactions are, how reliable these transactions are, and how secure these transactions can be done. These are something that we are fairly familiar. We've been doing it for many years, and we do billions of transactions in a day. So these are foundational, but the whole industry is today looking at it, and almost every other day you see somebody, kind of getting onto the stablecoin bandwagon. I think it's a huge opportunity, huge place to look forward to. And I think the digital currency on the large, at least from my perspective, what I see is the CBDC, and a lot of progress is happening in the space to kind of make it more seamless and easy for a financial transaction to be much quicker, faster, more secure. So these are interesting time that we are going through in from a financial industry standpoint, and that's giving huge opportunity for business globally. And for people in technology and development, these are bringing in new opportunity and challenge, and how you kind of operate on these. So exciting times, I would say.
Right, Satish. And you very rightly mentioned that doing all of this with the right and secure way is the most important aspect nowadays, because with stable coins and all of the other counterparts, coming into the picture, it is very important that the securing all these assets along with maintaining the right process is becoming mainstream as well. So that also brings us a bit closer to knowing about the process and how to actually go about it. All right. So now we'll be talking about the guardrails, ethics, and the developer-centric responsibility that also comes into the picture. And for this, Manisha, I'd like to know from you that from a developer-centric view, what do you think are the new technical and ethical guardrails that teams should consider while integrating intelligent automation at the same time?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, what I spoke earlier in terms of, what what data to use, what contractual obligations to check, all of that is there. But I think with with Gen AI, how do you use your LLMs? How do you do your prompt engineering? A lot of those new things come in now, right? Uh, so so there is one part which is all data related in terms of uh, you should have strict rules, what you can do and what you cannot do with data, and how can you enrich your data, how much can you enrich your data, right? So a lot of it is of course utilizing the data in the right way, but also all of the technology that comes with it in terms of for example, the personal identifiers in the data, the redaction of that. There are new things that are happening in terms of it's called prompt leaking, it's called prompt escaping. So a lot of that is happening. People are continuously creating prompts to find out more of what is behind the scenes. And the GPTs, the LLMs don't really are not that intelligent sometimes, and there is a leakage that is happening. So be careful about how you code in terms of how prompts are created, how prompts are and do you have a proper prompt monitoring system, right? So things like that, you need to take care of that. And then it also comes back to eventually the bias detection. So how accurate are your models, and if you continuously keep how should I say, testing your models or validating your models, right, on new data, and not just continue with your own old models the way they were, because there could be bias coming in. So I think all of that is very important with new technology in our hands. And I'll go back to the previous point that I was, adding to Satish's point earlier, that the human oversight aspect is very, very important for high risk decisions. So we are all learning from this. We are all learning to apply this new technology, but please have the human oversight where a decision needs to be made which impacts in terms of a risk or a high exposure of money, right? I think on those things you need to bring in human oversight, and keep learning, keep feeding back the data, and it will eventually learn and make you take the right decision going forward. But at the right point, the human in the loop, which is what we call today with Gen AI, is important. Apart from that, I think there are, like I said, you will work internally with your GRC teams, with your AI teams, right? Your internal center of excellences, or uh, teams that set up those guardrails for you. And you will be also working with platforms that probably also have some of these guardrails already embedded. So keep all of that. Of course, a lot of the systemic things will be there to guide you in the right way, but a lot of it is what you design, and how you make sure what you build is secure enough, is what we have to keep in mind as we start using this new technology.
Very well mentioned, Manisha. And definitely with all these guardrails, becoming more streamlined and accessible to the users, it also becomes important to know ins and outs about how to actually go about it. So now, from a leadership standpoint, Satish, I would like to know from you that what does developer-led design mean in practice, and how do you nurture that culture across large and distributed teams?
I think what's, at least from my perspective, what I feel, Kushi, here is that what's very important is, as a developer, from a design thinking principle, you need to understand, you need to start thinking from the customer standpoint. Like, how often do you know what is the problem that I'm solving for, and how desirable? So if you look at these three aspects from a design thinking standpoint, it's desirability, which means from a customer standpoint, whatever I'm designing and building, will it be desirable? Will the customer actually use it, and will the customer actually pay dollar for it, right? So you could have hundreds of things in your backlog, but if we can't identify those aspects of build which will have an impact, from a customer will say, wow, I love this, I keep using this feature so often. And then from a supplier standpoint, you are extremely excited because that's giving you significant revenue, right? So understanding desirability of that. Secondly, from business viability, right? um, that's very important, right? So what I'm building, at what cost I'm building, what resources are getting consumed for it, for that feature or functionality or whatever I'm delivering in my design, and is that, cost to serve is getting compensated for the revenue I'm making out of it. So having the business viability, which means having a sense of business acumen to it when you're building something. And thirdly, the technical viability. Now most developers are pretty strong on the technical viability, they know that part of it. But then, how, what I'm calling out, I'm not saying all of them don't look at desirability and business viability, but I'm saying if you can kind of tying all these three together, the way in which you start driving your design will be far more wholesome, in terms of business, and in terms of thinking from a customer standpoint, thinking from a business standpoint, and of course the technical side of it. So that's foundational for developer-led design. And I think if you start bringing that as a practice or culture within your organization, in terms of anything that you build in, so everybody in the team understand what's the customer problem we are solving, how impactful it will be for us from a business standpoint, and and is the technical viability, of putting this, design or solution into production, is feasible without impacting everything around it, right? So it kind of empowers the team to build systems that are not just functional, but resilient, observable, and scalable as well. So some of the things that we kind of help drive with our team or nurture within our team as leaders is that bring in more of these as experimentation within your secure sandbox. Of course, when I say experimentation, these are not like running, these are running into a couple of very short period of time, and not for long period of time. Bring in better tooling and automation where things are much more repetitive and manual in nature. Bring those automation that we talked about earlier, right? What kind of automation can we bring to leverage that? And some of those designs we bring in, which can start becoming certain part of your design should be self-service within your platform, so which, or can kind of do those stuff more recurringly, and becomes easier for other part of the platform to function seamlessly. And then creating a sense of inner source culture where teams can reuse and improve shared components, right? So bringing those kind of an access to them. And of course, facilitating periodic hackathon, design reviews, like Manisha was talking in the previous one, you can have potentially your code being reviewed by another agent, right? But the human intervention of those design reviews, which are critical to see what the impact assessment of putting this piece of code into a larger solution base and what this impact could be, right? So those design review, having a design authority or an architecture forum, and then periodic technical mentorship, because there's the technology and stuff are changing so rapidly, and we have to keep adopting ourselves. So how often can we give those mentorship? And this mentorship need not be top down, or so it should be kind of a collaboration, that you kind of create a culture of information sharing on how did we solve this problem together as a team. So, and I think this is something we follow at Fiserv. We have a very we have nurtured this through improved, better product management practice. Architecture guilds kind of cut through and giving developers ownership of various standards, be it an API or coding standards that we use, and then a lot of reusable framework. Given a large organization like ours, there is access to these information of what are those reusable frameworks that we have that we can leverage on, and people constantly go look at these library and conference pages to kind of leverage those and help drive a better platform roadmap. And these are something that we practice as part of it, and which gives us better results and better products and platforms for our customers. Yeah, so these are some things that, as I said, the desirability, business fees viability, and technical feasibility are something that we need to look at.
Absolutely, Satish. That clearly depicts that how, with developer-led design in practice, we can nurture that culture across all the large and distributed teams that are actually coming apart. And of course, just like you mentioned, that it is very important to know how we can, be as well advanced with the automation and scalable design in frame. And of course, with these viewpoints, we have a better picture about going forward and moving into this fast evolving landscape. So now, as we move towards the end, we'd like to discuss about the real world impact and the future readiness that brings forward now. So, Manisha, I'd like to know from you if you would like to share an example where the smart orchestration or adaptive automation has delivered measurable impact in risk or in fraud or in CX.
Yeah, I think one of the, across the industry, wherever you read about things, a lot of the new technology has been applied to customer experience, right? Where your contact centers, your bots, conversational bots, everything is really, you're seeing a big impact in that space. There's of course a lot happening in the fraud side. So from a Fiserv perspective, we are building some smart routing agents. We've been able to take some of these agentic solutions now actually into production. We've crossed the experimentation stage. We are seeing results of it already. So definitely one area, Kushi, is the customer experience space, where we have a whole lot of data, and we have a lot of customer inquiries, questions, tickets, incidents coming in. So the first part of what we do is we apply a lot of AI ML to cluster, right? To even kind of go down to where really is the problem, and the usual challenges of what different terminologies mean, and what does this question really mean. So there's a lot of clustering and AI ML algorithms working there to kind of narrow down to the crux of it. Then we started looking at a lot of history data in terms of which agents, which officers, or which whatever the terminology in each industry is able to answer those questions in the most accurate way, or in a is able to solve it faster, or who has more experience of solving these questions in the past. So we married that. So there was one agent kind of doing the clustering, another agent trying to figure out who's the right agent to transfer this request to, and another one which says who's available, etc., right, at this point of time. So a lot of these agents started working together. And in terms of the impact, to your point that were we able to measure impact, in this case we were. We could bring down the response time, the latency in a response to about 20 to 30% already. So already in action, and the escalations that were coming in, right? In terms of if a particular person is not able to answer and it gets escalated to another one, that itself has come down by about 20-25%. So overall, we are hoping, this year we get much better customer satisfaction scores. We're becoming, more efficient at handling customer queries. So that's our one of our smart routing solutions that we built for customer experience. And the other
Customer
two,
experience,
yeah,
Manisha, like, I mean, generic point, not on the example particularly, but in general, like, if you see a lot of digital transformation is happening, those are big opportunities. We know the size of digital transformation opportunity. It goes by DX, but there are two sides of story to it, right? For you to get a digital transformation, really successful, you need to not only solve the customer experience part of it, you need to
yeah,
solve the employee experience or other stakeholders experience, right? Who are the other stakeholders coming to servicing the customer experience? So when you have multiple stakeholders, so when you are saying there are different data that we take and then we, kind
yeah,
of agents take over and automate, the complexity is like, for us to give a seamless customer experience, you need to bring the
digital.
employee side of experience or the servicing side of the experience also better orchestrated. So and that kind of goes to the platform stuff that we talked about. So those are real challenging problems, and I think those are something that Manisha is covering about. Yeah, but I just want to bring the DX aspect.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting now, Satish, that we can combine so many. How should I say? There are so many factors that you can now combine to make a decision, right, through agentic. So each one kind of feeding into each other, and the decision is very different now with so many parameters coming in.
Right, Manisha, and that's actually a great example to look at. And with your insights as well, Satish, we actually now know that how smart orchestration can actually work along with the adaptive automation, and also with the measuring the adaptable impact also comes into the picture with all of these things transforming us in this space. So now, Satish, looking ahead, what do you think is that one or maybe more capability or mindset developers must build to stay relevant as automation and AI are definitely continuing to advance?
I think we are in an interesting juncture as we all speak. Right, there's so much, so there are millions of developers globally. I don't know the exact number, but then there are significant count of developers that are there. But the amount of industry leading tools, be it Cursor, Copilot, or
Mhm.
um, Cloud Code. There are so many other tools which are helping, coming in to help enable your development speed. So they are in entire technical software development life cycle. It's just not the developer who's getting disrupted, but the entire development cycle. People, be it from the analyst or people who are documenting or testing, the whole cycle is getting disrupted. Software today, in everything that we do today, there is some level of software involved, right? So be it your home appliance, your payment transactions, you're walking into anything, there is software. Literally, if software has become ubiquitous, it's almost everywhere, and the whole software is getting disrupted in the way in which this change is happening. So I think so from a developer standpoint, I think the change magnitude are significant, but at the same time, how do you start picking up the best of those technology available to kind of leverage what you do best. And Of course, for example, when spreadsheet or Excel came like 30 years back in Microsoft, it's not that accountants went out of job, right? So accountants still are there. So while these tools are coming in, it's going to make developers far more efficient. We're going to probably write more softwares because there are a lot of areas we need more softwares to be written to help automate, and we have not even touched or enter some of those spaces. Even within mature industry where there is enough software, there is more to be done. There is more areas we have not explored or done because we didn't have the bandwidth. But today, with the advent of these technologies and tools that are available, I think the software engineers are empowered to build more, empowered to deliver more. So how do you learn these things? How do you better utilize them? How do you scale up what you're going to build? And then how do you make sure these are of enterprise quality, right? And like, to the point that Manisha made, data becomes very pertinent to a fundamental to every design. So how much of your design is data driven? So is your data so are you looking at starting when you started building certain thing, can you start looking at like what is the data that's required to service this? So if I'm going to capture customer information, what is the data set that's going to go in? What's foundational? How is this data set going to be consumed for me to make various analysis, various aspects? So you go bottom up from terms of what data is required, what are the problems I'm solving. So you start looking at the problem much more different. What tools do I use? And then continuous learning becomes extremely essential, be it tools, framework, architecture, and these are fast evolving. And the speed at which one can learn and adopt is going to be the differentiator for us. And this is the new way of work, and you have no choice but the faster you learn, the faster you adopt. And these are tools which are going to make your life better. You're going to function more efficient and smarter, and the quality of stuff that you're going to deliver are going to be far more superior if you use these tools in the appropriate and right manner. So AI assisted development is something very pertinent from the question standpoint for a developer, and should become a default part of the whole SDLC, and not just an add-on, right? And then how do you kind of leverage them? How do you kind of use them for high quality, high impact solution is what is going to be the end outcome that the industry is going to look out for. And yeah, so learn fast.
Right, and absolutely insightful, Satish. Definitely, just like you mentioned, that having all these capabilities and mindset in the developers, and definitely will take them a long way in staying relevant as automation and AI are definitely continuing to advance now. So amazing insight, Satish and Manisha. This has truly been an insightful and thought-provoking conversation on how AI-powered automation is actually transforming the financial workflows and reshaping the way developers build and operate modern systems, while also uncovering the architectural patterns that are required to create these scalable and cloud-native financial platforms that are also capable of handling the global volume and rapid change. So now, as we move towards the end of the session, Manisha, would you like to share any closing thoughts?
No, I think I'll close with what Satish said, learn fast.
Ah,
It's a great time of the year, to when things are kind of slowing down,
right.
learn fast and, just try to adopt these new technologies and build more software. Yes, just build next gen, bring the data aspect into it. Always remember, either there's data coming into what you're building or data's getting out of it, right? So always keep the data fluency part very, very relevant in what you build. That's
Right.
I would say.
And definitely with this conversation, we've also streamlined the steps that we can take ahead moving into this landscape. So, Satish, would you also like to share some closing thoughts for our
Yeah, I
techies?
think, I mean, firstly, thanks to you and thanks to Manisha. Me and Manisha go a long way. We have done some great work together in the early part of your career, and we are back together again. So thanks for getting us to this great audience, and I hope whatever we shared is of value for this team, and value for these people who have spent their time with us. And and great questions, Kushi. And this is we really enjoyed responding to those. And I think my closing remark, I think most of it I summarized my previous answer on my previous question, but I think the scale at which some of the new things that are coming up is immense. I mean, it's profound from what we have seen in the last few years or even in the last few decades. But then every transition has brought about more play and more opportunity. As I said, the uh, uh, pick the right tools, understand the problems statement better upfront, and start solving them with the right set of tools that you can. And keep a specific set of your time for continuous learning, because otherwise you will find it too difficult to catch up on the number of new things that are coming up. So yeah, so with that, I think that's it from me, Kushi.
Yeah, and absolutely, Satish. Definitely, this is something that everyone can take as a key takeaway from the whole conversation. And of course, with all these viewpoints and expertise from your insights, has been streamlined into a better way to actually look at and to actually take notes from moving ahead with the conversation. So thank you so much, Sathish and Manisha, for sharing your perspectives, strategies, and also the lessons with us today. It has really been an absolute privilege to have both of you on this crosstalk session and also learn from your expertise at the same time.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Rishi.
Christine.
Great way to end the year.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely. And of course, a heartfelt thanks as well to all our wonderful participants for your engagement, which actually made today's session a great talk. And we hope the session has given you fresh insights into designing intelligent, secure, and future-ready financial platforms, and also a clearer understanding of the capabilities that developers must build to thrive in this new era of AI-driven financial innovation. This session has been recorded, and the recording will soon be available on techgig.com. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again in our upcoming sessions. Until next time, this is your host, Khushi, signing off. Stay tuned for more such conversations from TechGig.